Hi everybody. My name is Haley. I am 22 and I'm here to just tell my story of what happened to me this past week. And I'll get to that in a moment. But for now, I just wanted to say just a quick disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I am not a medical profession. Some parts of the story are going to get a little gross. So if you're not into it or have a very weak stomach, I suggest you skip ahead. So the story I'm about to tell you is how I found out I had what's called ascending aorta aneurysm, which basically means I have something in my heart um, that can lead to serious problems and even death. Um, and just so you know, I'm fine. I'm perfectly okay. But I'll get into more detail throughout the story as I go. So Monday comes around. Um, I still have a scratchy throat and I'm feeling under the weather. So I'm like, okay, so I must be getting sick. Continued throughout my day Monday. Went to bed early. Went to bed early that night, and then Tuesday morning comes around, and um, I had the pressure headache. I had the congestion in my nose. I still had the sore throat. So I go, oh great, I am sick. I am finally dubbed sick. So then, anyway, so I had to go to school because I had other commitments to attend to. So I took some Advil cold and sinus just to relieve the pressure and the nasal congestion and everything else that I had flu-like symptoms. So go to school, continue throughout my day. Since I only had one class in the morning, I got to leave. I got to leave early, so I came home around 11:30. When I came home that afternoon, I just felt terrible. So I decided to just, lay in bed and sleep when I needed to sleep, um, and hopefully feel better because sleep is important and, keeping up with fluids too. Fluids are like your number one go to if you're ever sick. Um, so then by 1 o'clock comes around, I had to eat something because I haven't eaten since that morning. And yeah, so I ate something. I, continued back to bed, tried to rest up, took a few naps here and there. But then by 5 to 5:30, I uh, I threw up, and it was not a good thing. It was not a good feeling. I haven't thrown up in like years, so it was a little shocking for me. I'm kind of still semi traumatized to this day. But yeah, so anyway, so I cleaned myself up. I went back to bed. And then by the time my mom got home by like 6:30, I had to tell her, I'm like, listen, I have to go to the emergency room. I feel like I'm dying. And also to this point too, in the afternoon, I also forgot to mention that I had shortness of breath. I felt like somebody was sitting on my chest, and I thought nothing of it. I thought, oh, these are normal cold symptoms. This is no big deal. So anyway, so I told my mom this. So I told her, what my symptoms are, and she told me, she's like, all right, we're bringing you to the ER. So anyway, so at this point we're driving to the emergency room. So anyways, we go to the emergency department. I Once we got there, I could not stand up for the life of me. I felt like my body was light. I was having some sort of out of body experience of some sort. I just did not feel right. Anyway, so they um, get me in. They get me into the room. They pump me with, not pump, I should say. They gave me fluids because I was severely dehydrated. They waited until I got enough fluids in me. Then they did this normal standard procedure where, they take urine samples, they take blood samples, you know, ask, what are you in here for? What's your medical history? Are you on any medication? Are you this? Are you that? Standard medical things. And I answered honestly. So by 7, 8 o'clock, they're like, okay, we're going to have a chest x ray for you just to rule out some things like chest infections, any broken bones or anything, things like that. So I was like, okay. So did the chest x-ray, waited half an hour to an hour, found out the results were all negative, so I was like, perfect. Then they decided to put me into a CT scan because they're like, you still have shortness of breath, something is not right. So I got into a CT scan to take pictures from either your chest to your abdomen or just your chest, or sometimes your full body, depending. And they pump you with this. I'm sorry, I keep saying use pumped. They gave me certain dye so that when they take pictures, they can see what they're looking at. Luckily, the dye comes out of you within 2 days if you keep up with fluid. So I get that done. I come back to my room by 10:30, 11 o'clock. At that time we were still waiting for results. So by like 10:30, 11 o'clock, close to 11, doctor came in and they found out, and they were totally not looking for this, by the way. They were just ruling out any chest infections and viral infections, bacterial, that kind of thing. So, they weren't looking for this, but the doctor told me, come to find out, I had aneurysm in my heart. So, when the doctor told us about it, I was like, okay, this is nothing. I can still, walk along. I'm not in serious pain. I'm not in serious danger. I thought nothing of it. But when he explained more about it, like how if it ruptures, it could lead serious damage to the point where it could be death. Luckily, they measured the aneurysm, and I was between a 4 and 4.2, so I wasn't close to having surgery. So the only time you have to have surgery if it's at 5 centimeters. That's when you're like, okay, we have to schedule your surgery. But if it's between 1 and 3, you're fine. You just got to keep an eye on it. If it's 4 and above, or 4.5, I have to keep a serious watch because it could either burst or it could grow to 5 centimeters, and then that's where you're like, okay, we have to take serious action. So when the doctor told me that, again, like I said, I thought nothing of it. The only thing I was worried about was, do I have to have surgery or am I dying? Luckily, neither happened. So they're like, okay, we can admit you or for observation, or we can send you home. And my mom and I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna get admitted just to keep a close eye and make sure nothing else happens. So when we got all the paperwork done, I got transported to the hospital that was nearby, and I had to be transported via ambulance, just because I had like IV in me and everything else known to man, so it was more safer that way. And on the ride there, I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to be okay. This is fine. Don't worry yourself. You're going to come out clean in the end. You're going to be okay. And like I said, I thought nothing of this. I thought, I just had the common cold. But I have to thank my doctors, because if he wasn't persistent enough, he would have never found it, and I could have ended up worse, to this day. So I get to the hospital. They send me right up to my room. They gave me more fluids and put this heart monitor on me just to make sure, everything is okay and my heart's not racing all the time and everything else. So, and then the nurse told me, we're going to schedule more tests in the morning. And then we're going to we're going to check on your vitals and everything else. Because at that time, I still had a raging high fever. I was trying to, keep my fever down and everything. So I was like, okay, perfect. So Wednesday morning comes around, and I slept okay for the most part, but it was kind of like choppy. Like I woke up almost every hour on the hour, or I woke up every 2 hours. So, anyways, so Wednesday morning comes around, I get what's called an echocardiogram, which basically means they do an ultrasound of my heart. They take measurements, they see where the aneurysm is, and get the proper measurements for it. So then I get wheeled back upstairs from the test. I just relaxed, hung out, waited for more test results. And then the doctor comes in, and the cardio surgeon / doctor, and he tells me right off the bat, like, you don't have to have surgery. And I'm like, thank God, because that's the last thing I wanted to do, especially at my age. But he told me this was a very unique case because mostly people who have aneurysms are between the age of 30 is the youngest, and 60, 70, sometimes 80 is the oldest. And since I'm 22, this is the first time he's ever had a patient like me. So kind of explained, what it was and, what some of the causes were. Not causes, but like, just basically giving me the MD version of it. And mind you, he was using big words, and I did not go to medical school. So anyways, bottom line was he told me where the aneurysm was, and it was between, at the top where the other blood vessels were connected, that connected to my brain, to my shoulders, my arms, and everything else. So it was close. And luckily, nothing happened to trigger it. It was just very inflamed. So, and then come to find out that he asked, is there any family history with this and everything else? And we explained that my biological father, we found that he had a aneurysm. He had an aneurysm, but we didn't find this out till after he passed, which was about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years. So I kind of had a feeling like something like this was going to happen, but I didn't realize how fast it was going to be. So the plan was, from what my doctor told me, since it's at between a 4 and a 4.2, I'm not going to need surgery, but I'm going to have to keep a close eye on it, meaning I need routine checkups. So I'd have to go to go get a CT scan every month for the first 6 months, and then after that we'll get to it. I'm gonna have to change my diet, so I'd have to have low sodium, non-fat milk, less fat milk, just because over time, if you have so much sodium and so much fat, it can affect your heart. Plus, he also told me that I would have to have surgery in the future, so like 10, 15 years at most. But if anything changes within these routine checkups, then I'd have to get surgery. But for now, I'm out of the woods. And then at that time, excuse me, I was like, okay, this is not bad. I'm going to have to, be careful and everything else. And he told me I was good to go, with going to school, going to work. The only thing that I have to be very careful of is my blood pressure, because at the time, my blood pressure was like 125/70 or something like that, in the normal range. And he just told me I had to be careful because If I have too much stress, or which causes my blood pressure to rise, then then it could become serious. So with that everything said, um, he referred me to a couple other doctors to, not take my case, but look over it and see what another, conduct a plan. And I was like, okay, that's great. So, yeah, so everything continued on, and I had to get another CT scan, just because the images beforehand, the first CT scan, were a little bit blurry. So I'd have to do another one, which was completely fine. And then good news was I got discharged Wednesday night, and it was great. I got to sleep in my own bed, and I got to sleep for a full 10 hours. I was so excited. But yeah, so that was my story. And to this day, even though it happened, all transpired Tuesday, I'm just very grateful that the doctors were there to help me, and they caught it in time, because if my doctor was not persistent, they would have never found it, and it could have been worse in the long end. So I'm just happy they found it, and I hope you guys got something out of it. And from now on, I'm gonna take it easy, but I'm not gonna stop continuing my life. I'm just gonna continue on, going to class, going to work. There may be some limitations that I have to do, like I can't, do lift weights, or, I have to tone down my stress, so I'd have to do yoga and meditation, things that keep me balanced. But yeah, like I said, I'm not gonna stop living my life. I'm just gonna continue on, and whatever happens, we'll take it as we go.